missing a day, a week, a month, a year or more of your meditation can be very frustrating because you know the benefits that meditation gives you. You have this intention, you want to do it, but somehow it just doesn't stick, right? And this is a common problem that people have. I had it, right? It took me at least 3 or 4 courses before I like committed to a meditation practice that was, longer than a month or 2 or 3. And so in this video, I'm going to share with you things that you can start doing immediately. And a couple of these tips, you don't even have to set aside even 10 minutes of meditating. That is good. You should do that. But first couple tips, you don't even have to make extra time for meditation. And then I'll talk more about, more tips just to get back into it, because meditation, you've experienced it, right? You've gone to a 10-day course. You felt how transformative your mind gets with meditation, how your relationship with your mind and in turn the external world changes when you're so light and free and so wise and patient and all these good things that meditation gives you. So, those are good for you. You want to stick to meditation, and this is the video for you. We'll start off with something you can start to do right now. You don't have to stop this video. Don't do anything. Remember in the 10-day course, maybe on day 7 or 8, I don't quite remember, Goenka brings up this idea of sampajana, this idea of being aware of your sensations as you move through the world, right? As you eat, as you stand, as you walk, as you lay down, as you do everything. So I invite you right now, again, you don't have to stop the video. Literally pick a body part, few inches, however big you want it to be, and try to focus on sensations there with a small part of your mind, maybe 10%, 15, 20, whatever. A small part of your mind, try to feel sensations there. And if you can't pick a body part, I'll pick one for you. Your right heel, right? Pick your right heel. You could do half of it, a quarter of it, all of it, whatever. And try to feel sensations there as you watch this video, right? And I'll remind you to come back to it, but see what that does. So this is the first step. This is the first trick, or really the first tool that you have to get back into meditating, is to do sampajana, is to be aware of sensations in your body as you're watching videos, as you're watching this video, as you watch the next video. Maybe you go on Instagram, you watch whatever you're doing there. Maybe you read a book. Focus on sensations. Just pick a body part. Don't try to make it like your formal sitting where you're going in a specific order and you're intentional and you're moving and you're aware. Don't make it too intense. This is literally 5, 10, 20% of your brain power. Just pick a spot and just feel sensations there as you live. So that is the first one. And this, you don't have to do anything more, right? If you're going to binge watch YouTube for 4 hours, I know, and I know that we shouldn't do that, but sometimes that's what we do. This gives you the opportunity to do Vipassana, although not the formal Vipassana, but the sampajana, to be aware of sensations. So use this. This is very important. You don't have to put aside extra time. You don't have to put any willpower into it. A little bit, 5, 10, 20%. That is the first step. And it's really important because it really is easy to do that, especially when you're just doom scrolling or you're just doing something mindless anyway. Do sampajana. It'll add a little more effort into it. It'll make the doom scrolling affect you less. You'll feel less depleted afterwards, and you'll be able to do it. So again, sampajana, try to be aware. Now, have you lost the concentration on your heel? No worries. No worries, right? Just bring it back. Bring it back. It's just like when you're meditating, you're gonna forget to do sampajana as you're watching this video and all the other videos and all the other things you do in life, but it's always just come back. So this is open-eyed Vipassana that you do as you live life. Very easy. You have what it takes, having completed a 10-day course, to be able to, even if you're not feeling the deepest, subtlest, most intense sensations, just any sensations, right? Don't be picky. The next step is try to incorporate Vipassana on a very specific time in your life. which is that time when you go, you lay down in bed, you put on the sheets, the covers, you close your eyes, and you're waiting to fall asleep, right? Most people, it takes 10 to 20 minutes to fall asleep. So the next thing is use that time every single night to meditate, right? Just lay in bed, you're sleeping, you can start at the top of your head, you can start anywhere. Don't worry on like going too fast or like don't try to treat it as you might like on a 10-day course where you're really trying to dissect and trying to go really deep into the sensations, and use it more as in quieting my mind and preparing it to go to sleep. So just do it like very calmly, very gently, and just like wind down and use this 10 to 20 minutes every single night to meditate. This is another easy way to not have to make time for it, because this time, this 10 to 20 minutes, you're every day for the rest of your life, probably, barring days where you're so exhausted that you literally hit the, like you fall asleep right as you get into bed. But, those just happen here and there. For the most part, it's going to take you 10 to 20 minutes or more to fall asleep every single day of your life. So this is another easy way to include meditation, Vipassana into your life without having to make time for it. And now, before I give more tips on how to come back, this is a more emotional tip, right? And this is the tip of how to handle guilt. You might hear from a lot of people, don't feel guilty, like try to release it and try to let it go. But I'm going to give you a different view. I'm going to give you a different perspective. And not for the sake of just being clickbaity or trying to be like different, but just like hear it out. And the idea is use guilt to fuel your success. And what do I mean by this? I've looked at guilt, right? I've been a meditator, and as my meditation practice has progressed, the way that I see guilt and the way that I experience guilt has transformed. And what I've found is, right, guilt is a very authentic feeling that is very true to me, right? I only feel guilty about things that I actually care about or things that I know I shouldn't have done because I actually cared about that thing or cared about behaving this way, and then I ended up doing this other thing. And it's not like an outside idea where society said you should do this thing, but then you don't really feel guilty, but then you just like, oh, well, I got to conform to society, right? It's not that. It's literally guilt. When you feel guilt, is it's a welcome to see how you really feel. And when you feel guilty about meditating, and I felt guilty about not meditating all the time, um, what I sense and what I experience is I know meditation's good for me. I know it will benefit me experientially. Like I've meditated before. I know that the problems I'm having with pent up stress and I feel yucky inside and I'm starting to be so agitated and irritated. I know meditation can fix it. And so when I feel guilty about not meditating, right, this truth is coming out and saying, look at all these problems that we have. And sure, meditation might not fix, all of them, but meditation definitely helps. So it's kind of like telling me you're hurting yourself by not meditating. And this guilt that comes out, it's coming from this deep inner knowing of what the truth is, which is I should meditate. So when you feel guilt, right, try to lean into it. Try to like see what the perspective is, right? Try to be equanimous with it instead of going into this downward spiral of negativity or trying to be like, well, I shouldn't feel guilty about this. I'm just a human. I'm imperfect. And, trying to go that route as well of like avoidance. Try to be like, what am I authentically telling myself? And guilt is like a really powerful emotion that you can use to be like, I recognize, you know what, guilt, you are right. My life would be better if I meditated. Like, I know that. I know my life would be better. Like, I hear what you're telling me. I see why I am reacting this way to you and not wanting to feel you because you feel kind of bad, right? It's kind of, I feel maybe a little bit of a shame. And, there's all these negative feelings in there that I'm like trying to have aversion towards. But really try to remain equanimous. And then when you listen to it, guilt is actually trying to push you in the direction that you want to go, which is to meditate. So use guilt to fuel your desire to meditate. Use it as, to objectively see, look, I am not doing what I know deep in my heart is best for me. And this is, being called out on it. And so just like recognize, be like, hey, I'm calling myself out. I'm going to take accountability and responsibility, and I'm going to do something. Now, does this mean that immediately you're going to feel that way? No. But just try to see your guilt as another invitation to deepen your practice, right? It's a signal that you're getting that is another thing telling you, hey, you should probably meditate. The next thing is to try to actually make a chunk of time for meditation, right? So the 2 tips before, sampajana, hey, focus back on your heel if you've forgotten it, and just see how it changes your experience of watching this video and watching other videos, scrolling through whatever platform you're scrolling through. So remember sampajana. You don't have to do it. You don't have to make time for it. You're already watching this video. You're already doing this and that. You're just adding it in. The second one, that 10 to 20 or more minutes that it takes to fall asleep, meditate. So these 2, you're not making time for meditation. You're just adding meditation into your lifestyle, right? In the sense that, you have this life that you're living and you're just like adding it in. Of course, to do these things, you must have gone to a 10-day retreat. So if you're still watching and you haven't done a 10-day, probably these things won't, make too much sense to you. But the next thing is to actually make some time. And I would recommend, since, if you've implemented that second tip of doing it that 10 to 20 minutes, carving out a 10 to 20 minute chunk in the morning to meditate. Now, here's another thing that's really important to know at this point. There's this idea, right? Goenka tells us, and you go to a 10-day course and it's like, hey, you have to meditate for an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening to get some good results. And so you might have it in your head that if you don't meditate for an hour, Vipassana will not work. And this is incorrect, right? And I'll use an analogy, right? You have your body. I love using this analogy because it just makes so much sense. Most people, when they go to work out, whether it's for a run, a yoga class, exercise, like any kind of exercise, they generally do it for an hour to 2 hours a day or per instance. Now, does that mean that if you worked out for 10 to 20 minutes that you will not get any physical benefits, right? No, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that you don't get any benefits at all. It's just that 1 to 2 hour mark is where you're, getting enough rewards, not necessarily even for it to be worth it, but just like that's how much it takes to get satisfactory results. Now, how does this apply to meditation, right? So that idea of having to meditate for an hour to get good, satisfactory results does not mean that just doing 10 to 20 minutes gives you 0 results. And don't let, 10 to 20 minutes not being as great as 1 hour keep you from not meditating at all, right? Because that's a big barrier, is thinking that you have to do for an hour. So let go of this idea that you won't get any benefits if you don't meditate for an hour, and literally just carve out 10 to 20 minutes in the morning initially. And just as with physical exercise, yes, it's great to start with 10 to 20 minutes, but then there's a certain amount where you need it to get good benefits, right? Like, for instance, I think with exercising, you need like 150 minutes of moderate activity, as, said by the World Health Organization or something like that. And so they've put this number of saying you need 150 minutes of, moderate to intense exercise per week. Because that's, that was just like the number that's optimal. Now, does that mean if you do 100 minutes a week that you're not, doing good to yourself? No, it doesn't. It just means that here's the bar and here's what you want to aim for. And so treat that 1 hour goal as that, like, this is the bar, but it doesn't mean that if you do this much that you're not getting any results. And if doing this much is all the results that you want, like 100% do it. So this is the first tip where you carve out 10 to 20 minutes in the morning. And again, I'm suggesting that in the morning because if you implement the other tip of meditating that 10 to 20 minutes you're taking to fall asleep, you now have 20-ish minutes in the evening, 20-ish minutes in the morning, and bam, you are like setting yourself up for success. And then this like builds on just this last tip is try to extend that time, right? Try to make it a little bit longer, go from 10 to 20 minutes, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, and try to find what works for you, right? And this comes into like, what do you want out of meditation? If it's important to you, you'll naturally do more because you'll get more results and you'll get more benefits. And you'll, maybe not be satisfied with what you're getting. For instance, let's say your goal is with exercise and you're like, all right, I want to, hit this target. I want to weigh this much, or I want to have this much muscles and I want to look like this. And if you're going to the gym 10 minutes a day, you probably won't get those goals in the time that you want it. But what if you're like, I don't want to look any kind of way. I just kind of like, maybe I just want to do my 150 minutes per week, and I just want my heart to like be good. And so you can change like what your expectations are basically. Like if you lower or increase your expectations, then you do how much meditation you need to achieve that. So if your, goal with meditation is, I just want to meditate a little bit, relieve some stress, and, have slightly less anxiety, bam, then you just meditate that much. If you're like, I want to explore the nature of reality, I want to understand the functioning of how the reality in the universe is giving rise to my existence and how this existence is expressing in a way that I am experiencing and able to experience, right? If your goal is to like transcend into that realm, you're obviously going to have to do way more. So what if you don't want to do that? And that's fine. Like if you don't want to be a bodybuilder, you don't have to work out 5 hours a day. You can work out an hour a day, and that's fine. So it's like that with meditation too, is how, like, what do you want out of meditation? And then you do it that much. Now, this last tip or few tips are just bundled together, and it's, really try to get a little more involved with the community, with the meditation, Vipassana meditation community. So whether that looks like, joining virtual group sittings, definitely use the Dhamma app. You can find the link down below. There's a menu, where you select group sittings near me, and you can join virtual group sittings. You can join in-person group sittings if there's any nearby. And definitely use that app as well in that same virtual group sittings. There are virtual one-day group sittings, right, where it's like from 9 a.m. or 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 a.m. p.m. And try to use that as like a reset, right? Let's say, especially if you can go in person, definitely like check out the Dhamma website where you sign up for courses. Look up any centers near you and see if they have a one-day course in person. And sometimes they'll do it in a city near you. For example, the center near me is Dhammakunja down in Alaska. But they'll have one-day courses in Redmond, which is about 40 minutes away from me. And so they'll like rent out a church, and they'll host a one-day group sitting. So I don't even have to go all the way to the center. They just have it right there. And I know in like Oregon, in Hillsboro, Oregon, they have, once a month, one-day in-person group sittings. And you don't have to come all the way up to the center. So basically like this, try to find an in-person group sitting and one-day group sitting. And it could be much nearer to your house than the nearest center. So always just keep an eye out. Look at the course schedule for the centers around you, and they will list any group sittings or one-day group sittings that are like closer to town. The other thing, if you can't do that, try to join the virtual group sittings. If you're at the point where you want to like commit to an hour and you're like, okay, these are the level of benefits I want, and I understand this is how much investment I have to make, then try to join the 1 hour group sittings. And again, use that same virtual group sitting section in the app. And you can, with virtual, you don't even have to do centers near you. Like let's say you wake up at 4 a.m. on the East Coast. and there's no group sittings until 6 a.m. Well, you can join, like group sitting that is on like in Eastern Europe. They use all the same Goenka recordings, and so you don't have to like speak any language. And so you can join like a 6 p.m. in this country where it's 4 a.m. where you are. And so you can like be creative in that and finding a group sitting, virtual group sitting to literally line up with your time. I'm pretty sure you can find a group sitting around the clock if you just join the center that is doing it at that particular time for the time that you are. That takes a little bit of finessing. But anyway, that is definitely an option. And another great way to really uh, get back into the practice, like go and serve. Like if you can only serve a weekend, literally try to go and serve a weekend. And this makes it much more worth it to go to the center. If you got to drive for a few hours, and if there's no centers near you and you got to fly, I'm sorry, this doesn't apply. But if you're, within a few hours of a center, but you don't want to like drive, 3-4 hours just for, to go meditate for an hour. If you go for the weekend, right? Show up Friday night, be there Saturday, Sunday, leave like Sunday afternoon, then it's, a bit more worth it to drive a few hours either way. So try to do that every here and there, especially if you haven't meditated consistently for a while. It'll be great to like use that, because when you go serve, you're still in the environment, you're doing the 3 group meditations, and you have more time to meditate on your own. So you could potentially meditate like 4, 5, 6, 7 hours outside of you serving. And that is another great way to like really like jumpstart the practice. Reminder, your heels again. And if your awareness has moved to your ankle now, let it do its thing. So yeah, these are all the great ways that you can get back into Vipassana. I know you know how much it's worth it, and just keep trying. Keep trying. Again, like I said, it took me 4 sits, 10-day sits, and doing other meditations and doing this and that before I was like, all right, I get the value and the benefit of meditating every day. I'm going to do it. And it's going to be the best decision you make for yourself. So do it. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.